Joining me, this is the August 22nd, 2013 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. A couple of announcements tonight. First off, our town summer camp just finished up about a week ago, and I'd like to thank Brad Bangle. He was the co-director for a few years at the camp, and we appointed him to director last year, after this past year. And Brad has done a terrific job. He made a few changes in the camp and got a lot of positive feedback. So I just wanted to thank Brad for his good work. And Joyce Maroney had done it for 22 years, so hopefully Brad can continue doing it for another 21 more years, Brad. So I just wanted to make that note. And number two, I also want to notice that we have a gentleman that was awarded a Purple Heart a few weeks ago. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Baden. Mark is a Hopewell Junction resident. He was wounded in Iraq, I think in 2003. He gave he was our speaker at a Memorial Day ceremony a couple years ago. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Baden is a terrific person. He's recovered from his injuries suffered in 2003. He has done a couple more tours in Iraq, I think in Afghanistan also. And he's out in civilian life right now, but it was just really nice to see him get the Purple Heart. And I just got to tell you that Lieutenant Colonel Mark Baden really is an inspiration to all of us. I'm really proud to call him the resident of the town of East Fishkill. So. With that, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilperson Walker?
Present.
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilperson Danke?
Present.
Councilperson D'Alessandro?
Present.
Supervisor Hickman?
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Everybody's been giving a copy of the minutes. Clerk Hooray, have you received any modifications, additions, or anything to the minutes
No,
for
I
the
have
July
not.
25th meeting as submitted?
No, I have not.
Okay. There being none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 25th, 2013 Town Board meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Public comments on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on any items on the agenda tonight? Okay, there being none. Under receipt and file, Madam Clerk, I believe we have a letter from our planning consultants, AKRF, regarding proposed zoning changes,
Yes.
correct? And we did receive a letter from Mr. James Macklin on Francis Drive regarding drainage issues. This has been an issue, for a while we've looked at. I know Mr. Macklin had come in after, we had a terrible rain, I think it was a week ago Friday. And he was in a couple days after that, and it was really a downpour. We've had issues with Francis Drive. I believe the houses that are built out there are built in 1969. We actually did a study. I asked the engineering department, give me their folder, and this is what we've done. We've done hydrological analysis. We've designed pipe systems, infiltration systems. Problem is, though, to get this water to go from where it is to where it needs to be is a very expensive process due to the topography and size of the pipe and the depth of the trench. I think we bid it out twice. Both times it came in at around $100,000. So budgets being as they are, we really can't pursue this project any further. In regards to the letter, I know I have spoken to our engineering department, but really there's no easy way to solve this thing. More infiltration, I don't think it's going to, the engineering department doesn't think it's going to handle it. We have to pipe it, but it's such a long route. The only possibility would be if we were to get an easement that could get us closer to the stream where we need to be. But right now, there's really no easy answer to this thing. I did talk with the highway superintendent about it, and he's very well aware of this because he's part of this package. And we have a certain number of dry wells there. dry wells are maintained. They're maintained more often than the other ones are because Dennis knows certain areas in town where there's poor drainage, we have to keep on top of these dry wells. They're maintained, like I said, more routine, at a more routine basis than normal. We do place sandbags out there. I know Mr. Macklin had an issue with the placement of sandbags. He said it made the situation worse. I spoke to Highway Superintendent. We both agree that that would not be the case, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen. And there was another issue about some construction test hole that had been dug, and I spoke to one of our foremen who was out there and said everything was taken care of. So I will forward this letter to the Highway Superintendent. We have the packet, but right now it's just one of those situations where you have a drainage issue. Margaret Drive comes down here, you have Francis Drive here, and then you have two or three lower properties right adjacent there. And 46 and 48 Francis Drive have been experiencing difficulties, but it's not an easy one to fix. So we are aware of it, but it's just a challenge. So I did want to say we did receive and file that letter, and also we have pictures of 48 Francis Drive here, which I'll forward to the Highway Superintendent. So, that being said, I think you have both of those, correct, Carol?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. So we'll take care of that. All right, next on the agenda is public hearings. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing to consider a local law regarding the Department of Finance?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing is now open. I think everybody's gotten a copy of the proposed local law regarding the Department of Finance. And actually well, Tom, if you'd like to explain it, but it codifies a lot of the stuff that we normally do, and we also would do at a reorganization meeting.
Correct, and basically this would, it's not adding any people, it's just putting in one place the outline of the finance department, which is headed by the town controller. And what it does, as you've indicated, Supervisor, is annually the town board adopts a series of resolutions because we have a town controller that takes some of the financial accounting obligations of the town supervisor and invests them in the town controller. So this local law would make those delegations permanent, so you wouldn't have to do the adoption of those resolutions every year, and would safeguard that they are done for, and it also allows certain reports that the controller prepares for the state to satisfy the town supervisor's obligation to the members of the town board. And it also would allow, with respect to budget transfers, within a department only, the controller can transfer funds between lines up to $2,000 and then notify the town board of it. It doesn't allow the appropriation of any additional funds, but it would allow to have a more timely payment of bills should one of the lines be slightly overdrawn, et cetera. So that's basically what it is.
Everybody's got a copy of the proposed ordinance? Any questions on the board? Comments? Peter?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is, basically. Anybody in the audience like to speak on or about the public hearing on the local law regarding the Department of Finance? There being none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Do I have a motion to adopt a negative declaration on local law regarding the Department of Finance?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Do I have a motion to adopt local law regarding the changes to the Department of Finance as outlined in the proposal?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now local law. Thank you very much. All right, we have 6 resolutions on the agenda tonight. The first one is a reappointment. Councilwoman Walker, would you like to read the first resolution?
When I find it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Whereas the town board appoints a chairperson for the town of East Fishkill boards, and whereas it is the desire of the town board to reappoint Thomas Tell for the Board of Assessment.
Board of Assessment Review, actually, that should be.
Okay. For a term beginning September 30th, 2013, and ending May 9th, 2017.
Thank you. Board of Assessment Review is if you have any issues with your assessment
Thank
after
you,
a
Bill.
certain period of time, you can make an application to have your assessment review. I guess that would be grievance time, correct, Tom? Grievances would be sent over to the Board of Assessment Review. Tom has served a long and distinguished career with our Board of Assessment Review. So. Any questions? Any comments? Do I have a motion to reappoint Tom Tobe as chairperson for the Board of Assessment Review?
So,
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Contact Tom tomorrow morning, let him know. Number 2 is to authorize the upgrade of an employee as a part-time recreation leader and 2 salary changes. Whereas it has been at the recommendation of the supervisor, being myself, that 2 current recreation assistants be compensated for the additional work they do. And Lori Ferrer will be appointed as a part-time recreation leader at the Limekiln Recreation Center at a pay of $12 per hour. And Christine Selbach will be given a $2 per hour stipend for her work with the East Fishkill basketball program. And Christine stepped in last year. She picked up the reins. Basketball, we have a basketball program that I think begins end of October. Carol, do you know what it is? It's like, I'm not a sports person.
No.
Around November and it's right through the winter. But there's a lot of work ahead of time to set up all the organizing, getting all the coaches together. Christine stepped up and she ran a very successful basketball program. So I just want to let everybody know that. So I would like to give Christine Selbach a $2 per hour stipend for her work with the East Fishkill basketball program. And also she does other work as far as Limekiln and a lot of recreation stuff that's really out of what she was normally hired to do. So I'd like to ask the board that they allow the $2 stipend for her basketball work and other duties assigned over and above her current position, which is basically working at Limekiln, just being, they sign people in, they watch them work out and do minor stuff like that. So I'd just like to also make note that this title and these salary changes would take effect on September 1st, and that these positions have been budgeted. They had been budgeted in this year's budget. The money's already there. It's really, instead of hiring somebody else to do the work, we can just take that money and give it to 2 people that are already on staff. So
The basketball money comes out of basketball, doesn't it?
I believe
Yes.
it comes out of the basketball,
Out of the basketball
fees.
program.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a basketball line that was funded for this, and that funding will go to support these 2 changes.
I'd just like to say also, Ms. Selbach, she really jumped into it last year and received no help, and she did a tremendous job.
Yep. Thank you, Nick. She really did. Very proud of her. And she was very enthusiastic about the whole thing. So. All right, with that, do I have a motion to authorize the recreation title change and the salary changes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Number 3, Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read resolution number 3, please?
Sure. Whereas St. Andrews Drive connects to Beekman Road and connects the main entrance into the Legend subdivision. And as part of that subdivision, 2 walls with the name of the subdivision have been placed within the town right-of-way. And the community maintains said walls and plants, flowers, etc. to highlight their community entrance. And it has been determined that part of these improvements are outside the town right-of-way. And the owner of the Beekman Country Club Golf Course is agreeable to execute an easement to the town to allow these structures to remain. And the lighting on said facilities are currently paid by a private individual, and the account would now be switched to the Beekman Lighting District, which includes the homes and the legends. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to accept the easement from the Beekman Country Club with respect to the above matter, and all documents shall be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Further be resolved that upon execution of these easements, the supervisor is authorized to have the lighting account for said monuments transferred to the Beekman Lighting District so that the lighting on said monuments will be maintained.
Thank you, Councilman. Tom, is there anything you'd like to add on this? This is part of a subdivision done years ago. At some point in time, they would always turn these over to us. Unfortunately, these utilities were outside the easement, so basically we're just expanding the easement. Do I have a motion to accept the expanded road right-of-way at Legends entrance on Beekman Road?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Resolution number 4, Councilman Danke, would you read resolution number 4?
Yeah, just a little bit of background. About a month ago, Supervisor Hickman, Chief Nichols, and myself went to the district headquarters for Wappinger School District and met with the superintendent about the school's resource officer, which we've provided for, I guess, since the 1990s, mid-90s or so.
I think
90,
92.
about, so 20 years or so, and received $6,500 a year for that, which of course our expense is much greater than that. But it was always felt, and I agree by the police department, I agree with the police department, that it was very important that our officer be there full-time for the safety of the students and the community. So when we met, we had a very good meeting with the new superintendent, and so therefore the resolution will explain what happened. Our SRO at John Jay, Eric Vaughn, is a terrific resource officer, has a great rapport with the students, and does a terrific job in his role as an SRO. All right, so it says, whereas over the years, the town has been assigning one of its police officers to perform the duties of a school resource officer at John Jay High School in the town, and whereas it is readily acknowledged that the Wappinger Central School District does not include all of the properties within the town, and that many of the town residents are served by Arlington and Carmel school districts. Whereas discussions were held with the superintendent of schools, and it was determined that it would be appropriate for the school district to partially reimburse the town for some of the costs incurred for placing a school resource officer at John Jay High School. Whereas the superintendent has agreed, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute an agreement with Wappinger Central School District to provide a school resource officer for the 2013-14 school year. Be it further resolved that the Wappinger Central School District shall pay to the town the sum of $60,000 to defray some of the cost of the said officer's assignment to the school. Be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to take all other steps necessary to effectuate the intent of this understanding.
Thank you, Councilman. And I have to echo Bill's thoughts on the SRO program. Terrific program we put in place in 1991, 1992. We've had a school resource officer in John Jay for all those years. We have always bear the most of the brunt of the cost of it. But I think my board has always agreed that it's worthwhile for the kids, for the community, creates a bond with the officer and the kids of John Jay. And then after the unfortunate incidences of Sandy Hook, now you see all the other schools are bringing the SROs into it. But our program has been very, very successful for these years. So with that, do I have a motion to authorize the agreement with the Wappinger School District with respect to the SRO?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Resolution number 5, Councilman D'Alessandro, would you please read resolution number 5?
Okay, whereas the independently elected receiver of taxes has designated Jessica La Calamita to be tax record clerk on a seasonal basis in her department, and the town board has agreed and concurred with this request. Now therefore be it resolved that Jessica La Calamita be and hereby is designated as seasonal tax record clerk in the tax department, and be it further resolved that said clerk shall be compensated $12.84 per hour in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. This appointment shall take effect as of September 9, 2013.
Thank you, Councilman. I would like to just note that Jessica has worked for the town of East Fishkill in the tax department, and she's also served duties as a floater in offices in the town of East Fishkill, and she's a good worker. So with that, do I have a motion to appoint Jessica La Calamita as our seasonal tax record clerk?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Councilman Cassidy, would you read resolution number 6?
Whereas the Jackson family has approached the town and indicated their desire to purchase an adjoining property and add it to their farm, subject to a continuation of a conservation easement that currently encompasses their farm. And whereas said property is held by a lien is held by the EPA for cleanup work paid by the EPA, paid for by another property with the same property owner. The EPA would consider releasing said lien in order to effectuate this transaction, but has requested community support. And whereas it is the desire of the town board to continue this parcel as open space and make it part of a productive operating farm. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to send a letter of support with respect to the Jackson Farm, acquiring the adjoining parcel in which the lien is held by the EPA. Be it further resolved that the supervisor takes all steps necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution.
Thank you, Councilman. What it is, we received a call from a gentleman who represents the trust that these parcels are in. Approximately, at the end of the Jackson Farm, there's approximately 4 or 5 parcels. Odd lots created who knows when. They've been zoned industrial forever. But there's really no access, there's really no way to make these operating industrial parcels. And where it is located on the farm, on the parkway, on Route 84, we really wouldn't want to do that. I know that the Jackson family is looking to take these in, and through Dutchess Land Conservancy, these parcels would be acquired, and they would be kept in a conservation easements. They would never be developed. They become part of the working farm. And I asked the assessor, there will be just a minimal change in the taxes due to the change, because they'll go from vacant industrial to an agricultural type of a use. So, and what I would like to see, what I hope to see, would be that this would start, maybe more and more of the Jackson Farm would go into the conservation easement, because that really, especially where you come down by this, is one of the most beautiful parcels, beautiful farms in the town of East Fishkill coming down the parkway. So, with that, do I have a motion to support the acquisition of additional farmland for open space?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I will contact Mr. Jackson. I do have one resolution from the floor that I'd like to talk about. There's a request for a camp refund. I know everybody is aware of, and if everybody's okay, I would just like to refund the portion of the money for the time that was not spent at the camp for those children.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that's it for the resolutions this evening. Budget transfers, we have no budget transfers this evening, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Says yes.
Well, we changed our mind. You know what happens? We're in the middle of budget season. So it's when you think there's gonna be a budget transfer, then all of a sudden, oops, no budget. So we'll see. Yeah, before you know it, and I have to give our controller a lot of credit. We're working on the budget right now. And Mark, I gotta thank you. I think you do a terrific job. We're looking at the new tax cap component. I see the tax cap is 2% tax cap, but actually it's 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. Now, I guess the Bureau of Labor Statistics has established that inflation is only 1.66, so our 2% tax cap just shrunk 1.66. But New York State gives you certain qualifiers. They give you certain added features to the tax cap. There's a growth portion. There's a portion on if the increase in your pension, if your pension obligation goes up. And Mark, I got to tell you this. You did a really great example that you sent to me this morning that shows that although New York State gives you a multiplier for the pension over a certain amount, it really doesn't cover the increase in the pension. It's like 40% of it. So we really should write the governor's office a letter, because maybe they don't know that, maybe they think they're doing the right thing, but it's just the way it is. But Mark, I got to tell you, you're doing a great job on the budget, and finding, and the way you put it today when you sent me that email on the pension multiplier. Yep, very good work. Pleasure working with you.
He's emailing to save money.
Right.
They don't have the stamp to send the governor.
Whenever we go to spend money, Mark just usually turns up there shaking his head no. So that's what he does. So there are no budget transfers this evening.
Paper's expensive, too, Joe.
I know. He recognizes that.
I'd just like to recognize East Fishkill lacrosse and football. They donated our 10th AED.
Did they really?
Yeah, and so we'd like to thank them
Oh.
very much for that. And
Yeah.
our AED program is moving along to the point we probably will qualify for that Heart Safe.
Yeah, so we'll be
Pretty soon,
certified at
yeah.
some point in time. Good, as an
Okay.
AED community.
Correct.
Excellent. Oh, that's terrific. Who donated it? Lacrosse?
Lacrosse and football
Wow.
together.
Oh, good, good. I see, and, talking about football, I see it's that time of the year.
Yep.
Kids are coming out, they're suiting up, and they're out on the football,
Mhm.
practicing on the football field, so it's hard to believe how fast the year's going. All right, next on the agenda, public comments on general town issues. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on general town issues?
Michael Wallers, Hillside Lake.
Would you please sign in?
I'd like to start by saying I was pleased to see that there's progress on the engineering portion, grant portion of the Hillside Lake Stormwater Project. And more so, I was pleased to see that was not coming from the Hillside Lake Park District funds this time around. I have a few questions that are still up in the air, and I don't feel were clearly stated at the May 30th meeting. The first one would be, who is paying for the maintenance of that stormwater project once it's in?
There'll be, stormwater district will be formed at some point.
So who will pay for that?
Anybody in stormwater district?
Okay.
Any stormwater that's discharging to that system from either Hillside Lake or any of the outlying areas that are going through that area.
Okay, so your Hillside Lake residents, that would encompass all Hillside Lake residents.
I would imagine anybody on a road with a catch
And
basin, what have
That
you.
would
Yep.
also encompass people from James Dorland Drive, Chase Court,
If that's
Marine
discharging into
Court,
that, yes.
coming down there. They will be part of the stormwater district.
Possibly.
Possibly, we'd have to take a look. I mean, I'm not gonna say James Dorland if they're not discharging to the district.
They have
Anybody-
stormwater.
Anybody discharging to that district will be part of that district.
They have stormwater discharging right down East End Road, which
If they do, I'm
goes right
not
into
aware of that,
Hillside
but if they
Lake.
do, yes.
The main question then is, how do you justify that these people pay for the maintenance of East Fishkill's stormwater treatment? Not East Fishkill's stormwater,
Right.
the treatment of the stormwater that comes off East Fishkill's roads.
Good point. We have a couple stormwater districts that we formed one 2 years ago. We probably will be forming another one soon. That's an open question, absolutely, it's a good point. If it is town stormwater, absolutely. What I've been finding that some of these districts take a little bit more upkeep than others due to the special nature. But actually, now that you mention it, could become a town-wide highway. I don't believe the upkeep is gonna be all that expensive. So we'll take a look at that.
From what was said at the meeting, we're talking about $200 every time, so no, it's not expensive at all.
No.
But the principle
I
behind it
understand.
is why can't
We'll
the
take a
town
look at it.
absorb this? Because Hillside Lake residents are not the only beneficiaries, they're actually the minimal beneficiaries in this.
Understood.
As it was explained in a meeting,
Mhm.
and to directly quote Stephen Gruber, he said, let's call a spade, it's not improving the water quality.
Good.
So we are not receiving a benefit from this. I think we can also agree that we could probably come to the agreement finally at this point, after several years, that this stormwater project is being done because the town of East Fishkill, I'll use that as a general name, no one in particular, had directed stormwater for several years now, arguably illegally, being it's a 303D impaired water body. And the DEC kind of got on you to make something happen.
No, I've not gotten any directives from the DEC in that respect.
That's not true.
Okay, then can we arguably agree then that the stormwater should not be going into a recreational lake?
I'm not prepared to discuss that.
Okay. would you direct stormwater into Sylvan Lake?
I think, I'm not aware of Sylvan Lake, I don't know much about Sylvan Lake's not in our town, but I would imagine at some point there may be stormwater.
What is the lake
Sylvan
in Red Wing Park?
Excuse me?
My name's mixed up. What's the lake in the, that you charge people to go swim in over here? Red Wing Lake. Would you it'd be okay to direct stormwater into there?
Typically, I don't have an engineer on the staff here, but typically, that's been engineering practice for many years.
And there is stormwater going into that lake?
Oh, I don't know, I'm not that familiar with Red Wing, I don't swim there. I don't know
Point-
if there's catch basins there.
Point I'm making is Hillside Lake was and is still referred to, when it's convenient, as a recreational lake. And stormwater is being diverted in there and has been for years, and was for several years after it was declared an impaired water body. So the fact of the matter is you're cleaning up the mess that was made, in part. And yet you want to charge the residents who have taken the brunt of this stormwater that's going in there, you want to charge them for the maintenance to what you're doing to clean that up.
Well, I thought we just said we were gonna discuss that, we'd take a look at that, whether it should be a townwide charge.
When can
And I
we
do
dis-
think we also admitted that's probably minimal charge.
Right, I agree, it's a
And
minimal
I
charge.
do remember we had a long discussion about I forget, it was $100, $200 latch gate that was involved, so,
Mhm.
installed out there, so.
Right,
But as I said, we'll look at it.
okay. I'm glad we're willing to look at it at the very least. Another thing that wasn't made clear, it was mentioned that, in that meeting, that there would be 80% of the stormwater treated with this project. And the fact of the matter is 52%, if you want to split hairs, is what I was told by Renewage, is what's being treated. Because you're only proposing.
I'm sorry, by who?
Stephen Grouper from Renewage.
Okay.
52% of the stormwater will be treated now.
Yeah.
What is the plan for the other 48% of the stormwater that's entering the lake?
We have none at this time.
Okay. But the plan is to treat all of the stormwater that's entering the lake at some time.
We have a long, Hillside Lake is a very complex issue. And I know that, your feeling is that the stormwater is a big part of the problem, and I would think that it is a part of the problem. I think there is a lot of different components to the problems with Hillside Lake, nitrogen loading and other issues of that nature. So I suppose we could spend a lot of time and money controlling all of the stormwater, but I don't think I'd really go there if there's other things we can do in addition to. So I would not want to say to you, well, after this, we're going to contain the other up to 100% of the stormwater and filter it. This is a long process, and there are other things we'll be looking at.
Such as?
Hmm?
What other things, such as?
I think nitrogen loading, I think if there's any septic issues out there, that sort of a thing.
Okay. So you're not being proactive and looking into engineering the remainder
I'm
of
not
the
an
project
engineer,
right
so
now.
I hesitate to tell you what we're doing. I know conceptually what we're looking at, a
I'm not
very
asking you
complicated
to engineer it.
situation.
I'm asking you to be proactive and get the ball rolling to have it engineered. So
Mhm.
when you go to secure a grant for that portion, which is what I'll assume you'll be doing, you'll be prepared. So can we be proactive and move
I
forward
don't
with
think
that
probably in
portion?
your definition of proactively, yes, we've been talking about the whole complex issue of Hillside Lake.
Okay. So the question remains then,
Mhm.
can we be proactive?
Not for your definition, I don't think, but we've been looking at the whole concept of the Hillside Lake issue.
All right. My last question then. Actually, I'll hold off on my last question. I wanted to clarify 2 points by coming up here, and one is that the residents of Hillside Lake will be charged an additional tax for the maintenance of your project.
You keep saying that, but I think in our discussion, we'd actually established that we would actually look at it, see if it would be a townwide charge or a Hillside Lake charge. I think
But-
we discussed that, and we came to that conclusion.
But
We'd
doesn't
be
it say
looking at
that in the grant?
Excuse me?
Doesn't it specify that in the grant that you'll create a park stormwater
We can
district?
still make that change. That is an issue we can still look at.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to continue along that vein, but that's something was, I know you don't believe this, but we try to be fair, and if this is really going to be a townwide charge, it will be a townwide charge.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Okay. I wanted to clarify those things. I know in the meeting, They
Understood.
were not touched upon. It was even mentioned that this is a town-wide, like you're saying, using that term town-wide, and there'll be
Yeah.
no charge to Hillside Lake. Okay? So I wanted to make that clear, and I wanted to clarify
But
that.
the whole town is not discharging into Hillside Lake. I just want to make
No
that
one's
clarification.
saying that.
Okay, so, okay, the people who live in Hillside Lake, okay, are reaping the benefits, okay, living there, okay, and getting the rest of the town to pay.
What
pay for it.
benefits
But
are we
we are.
reaping?
But we are
We just went
considering
over that.
Okay, but that's fine, but let's call it as it is, okay? A town-wide charge,
Mm.
not a specific area charge.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Can you tell me what benefits you feel we are reaping from this 50% stormwater? Cleaning 50% of the stormwater that's entering the lake. What benefit is that giving us?
I'm sorry?
You just said Hillside Lake is reaping the benefits, but the whole town is paying.
Well, what I'm saying is you're having a district, okay? It's a very specific district, a stormwater district, located in an area of the town,
Mhm.
okay? That 98% of the residents of East Fishkill have nothing to do with whatsoever, but are paying for, or will pay for it.
But we do agree that this is
I'm
something
not
like that.
saying that. You know, I'm there with it.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to state
Mhm.
is that the whole town, you and you and you and you and you might not live in Hillside Lake, but you're gonna pay.
pay for it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Very good.
I don't want to beat the issue of the
No.
$200, and I don't want to ask that
Understood,
question again.
and it's a
but
principle
I
thing.
would like
Right.
an answer to what do you feel is the benefit that Hillside Lake residents are getting from this? This is.
That the whole
this is
town is paying,
Town
that
road.
all the residents of East Fishkill are paying,
So,
okay, for the
You're-
discharge.
You're stating we're benefiting because the town is paying for the.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Even though it is your water or your
Yes,
runoff that's going in there.
It's not particularly our
Okay.
runoff or our water. We've been round and
Well-
round this circle many
Yeah, we don't-
times. That's why
Okay.
I clarified.
I'm
it
just
wasn't-
saying,
It wasn't
okay.
the town stormwater.
I'm totally for the town, please don't misinterpret it,
Okay.
okay? I'm totally for it, but it's a town charge versus the residents
Right, the
of
district.
Hillside Lake.
I'm
Okay.
totally for it too. I don't want you to
Right.
misinterpret that. I'm not
It
trying to
doesn't
stop
sound
it
it,
at
I know.
all.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the fairness of it.
Oh, absolutely.
that-
And you know, when we do something like this, I mean, you'll come up with a lot of questions, and, you know, there's always lots of review and looking back, and absolutely, and I promise you, we will be fair with the people of the Hillside Lake Park District.
While I'm up here, how can we get more information out to the people who were not able to attend the May 30th presentation? How can we get the facts out to them? On the website, perhaps? Email it to me, I'll
Mhm.
distribute it, and then perhaps have a follow-up meeting where people have more
We could
time
have
to
a
gather their
follow-up meeting. I
questions.
don't have any of the documents. That was Renewage presentation on their project. I don't have any of that. If the community felt the need, we could schedule another meeting on that.
Okay. If I was to collect questions and send them to you, could you respond and post that, do a Q&A on the website?
Well, I would not be the one, number one, probably I would not be the one, because most likely they would involve the engineers. We certainly could set up another meeting if, at some point in time, if the community.
Well, I'd
says
like
we're
to have
getting like
another
that.
meeting, but I'd
I'd
also like,
rather do that than have, like you specifically asking me questions and then responding, and I think it'd be better to have a meeting like we had the public meeting not too long ago.
But if he could get the questions to Renewage ahead of time so they
We
know
want to
what
get
it
into
is.
Renewage, but Renewage is pretty good. I mean,
Or the
if you feel they need to see the questions
Stephen
ahead
has
of time.
answered many of my questions.
If you need to,
Even-
if you feel the need, that the community's questions need to be forwarded to them ahead of time, that'd be no problem.
All right. You understand my concern, the people that cannot make it to a meeting, they work nights, they have
Mhm.
children, whatever, for whatever reason. It's kind of unfair to have a meeting that you're gonna present and then ask for immediate questions. People don't have time to absorb everything. It's only the questions that instantly come to them. They walked out of there. I'm sure many people had many questions
Okay, Well,
afterwards.
then we could have a follow-up meeting.
So if people had that information that they could
Mhm.
review before the meeting,
Yep.
then have the meeting with their questions
If you want to
prepared.
if you'd like to get questions from the residents, we'll see what we can do. But
Okay.
what I would do is I would schedule another meeting so we can have another presentation and a Q&A.
Absolutely, as
I
long
think
as
that'd be
people
the
have
way
the
to go.
information beforehand
Hmm?
to digest and to prepare their questions. I mean, it just has to be, it doesn't have to be a presentation.
Oh,
It
yeah,
just has to be a Q and
absolutely.
A.
But
You
as
had a
you-
presentation
But
already.
as you're aware, this, this is also, I mean, the town is invited to this also. This is not simply Hillside Lake issue. This is
Right.
a townwide issue.
Yep.
Because it is a townwide, the town is paying for the grant and the upgrades and all that stuff. So it would
Okay.
really be, Hillside Lake, of course, and any residents of the town of East Fishkill would be more than welcome.
Okay. That was it, and I'd appreciate if you could maybe post something on the website when you're ready to revisit who's paying for the maintenance.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think that'll be something, we'll discuss that, we'll take a look. I can assure you, we will be fair with the residents of the Hillside Lake Park District.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on any general town issues?
My name is Rick Fisher. I live in Hillside Lake.
Got to sign in, Rick?
I'm sorry?
Got to sign in?
The grant,
Yes.
what is the status?
The status has been submitted to, gets submitted to the Green Innovation Grant gets submitted to DEC. It was submitted by the deadline, I believe was in June, sometime in June.
This year?
Yeah.
Next year? I mean, when we see the result
Oh, I don't know.
of
I
the
believe- I
effort, will
believe
there
they
be a
award-
grant or?
Excuse me?
Will there be a grant? I mean,
We don't know. We tried, this is the third time we're trying for the grant, so we don't know if there's going to be a grant.
so it's
We
still,
hope there's a grant. Every application we've made, we've been approved upon and gotten more information in there. So we would hope.
It was submitted August 12th.
Was it August 12th, Michael? Okay, thank you.
so I realize I'm speculating here, but is it presumptuous to think that there may be some answer by the end of this year?
I'm sure it'd be by the end of the year. I don't know the grant cycles or anything like that. I would have to contact the grant writer. I usually think it's like 2 or 3 months before you get a response.
So you mentioned, Mr. Hickman, about the fact that Hillside Lake is a very complex issue, and
Yes, it
I
is.
agree with it. It is. And ironically, when I was driving here tonight, I may have been hallucinating, but I thought I saw a deer walking across the lake. But that being said, are there any other bodies of water in East Fishkill that have the same unique set of problems?
Not that I'm aware of.
This is the only one. It's been a festering wound for many, many years.
It's been
We
getting
can
worse.
agree
for-
with that.
But it's been getting worse for
Since
many,
the
many
80s.
years. Excuse me?
Since the 80s,
You have Lake,
roughly speaking.
Excuse me?
Lake Walton.
Oh, Lake Walton,
Yeah,
too.
that's
That's true.
true.
We have another one, Lake Walton.
Also a
Which is a
privately
problem.
owned lake.
Excuse me?
Also a privately owned lake,
Yes,
like Hillside Lake,
yes.
which is owned by the town.
It's owned by the town on behalf of the Special Park District. Lake
Well,
Walton is owned.
regardless, according to the county, it's owned by the town.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Ms. Walker mentioned the benefits
Hmm?
to the Lucky Hillside Lake residents. I'd like to know specifically what benefits you're actually referring to that I'm not aware of. Could you name some for me?
I'm just stating, once again, maybe you didn't understand, that the town will pick up, or will consider picking up, the charge, okay?
I'm sorry, I
As a
have difficulty
townwide
hearing.
charge, okay, versus having Hillside Lake residents, okay, in that stormwater, they're gonna be members of a stormwater district, okay? I'm not a member of that district. A lot of the other residents in East Fishkill are not a member of that stormwater district.
I
okay?
understood.
We will pay for that,
Okay,
okay?
I understood when you
That's-
made that
Excuse
statement
me,
earlier.
Rick, I mean, if you just want to argue, I
No,
mean, I
it's
don't want to
not-
go into this. I mean, if you want to talk about the grant, the funding, what we've been trying to do, I have no problem with that.
Well,
I'd rather,
I'm leading up to something, if you'll just bear with me.
okay.
Ms. Walker's mentioning benefits.
I didn't mention benefits.
Well, no, the only benefit you mentioned was the fact that we'd be encompassed into a district where we would pay for any improvements or remedies.
They were talking about O&M, maintenance.
Moving forward.
charges. But we
Moving
also
forward.
said, and I said it several times now, that we will be fair and look at it, and if it's to be a total town-wide highway function, that's fine too.
Now, here's the problem that I have.
Okay.
I've seen evidence myself of another issue with another lake in this town,
Right.
where it was the complete opposite of this.
Okay, which lake is that?
I'm referring to Emmeline Pond,
Okay,
and that was back in 1996.
right.
And I drove by that one day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall the exact date, or it was late summer, early fall.
Right.
And there was a lineup of town highway department vehicles
Mm-hmm.
dredging that lake.
Right.
And I'm wondering why that same strategy has been utilized at Hillside Lake to some extent, even a marginal token effort, if you will.
Okay,
Point being is that coincident with the Emmeline Pond being drained, there was a condo complex being built a mile down the road.
right.
That complex gave the town $100,000 as part of the recreation fund, because that was the rule for getting an approval.
Mm-hmm.
That $100,000 did not go towards wildflower development for any kind of recreational use. That $100,000 went to supplement the cost of dredging that pond.
Right.
Why isn't that same thing happening here?
I think
Because
there's a little difference.
just to
Tom.
go back to Wildflower, we've been through this before publicly when it's been raised before. But whenever a project comes into an area, there's an environmental review that takes place. And part of the assessment or the impacts, et cetera, that the new development may have in the area. At the time of the Wildflower, as part of a recreational impact, the lake was identified by the applicant for the project, and funds were given to allow for the dredging of the lake to create an enhanced
Well-
recreational site. Now, obviously, in Hillside Lake, that's somewhat different because Hillside Lake is a park district. In a park district, only the residents within the district can use the lake. So if a
that's-
development were to come in the area, it would have to be located within that district in order to be able to obtain funding for
The
it.
park
Let
district
me
was
just, if I
created.
may, just one comment I would like to say, and that's true, because Hillside Lake being a special park district, not everybody can go in there.
Right.
But Emmeline Pond is a townwide
Correct.
lake where anybody can go in there and fish or boat or whatever.
The simple fact remains that the park district in Hillside Lake was created for one specific purpose.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
You tell me, it was the
You
maintenance
guys
of the lake
petitioned
to
for
an
it back in
extent.
1991. Why did you petition for the town to take over the, to form the special park district?
I'm sorry? Why
The
did I
resident-
petition?
If I believe it, if it's correct, I believe that the residents of the Hillside Lake petitioned the town board to form a special park district. Right?
Right.
So when you say to me, why did we do it? I say to you, why did you have us do it?
What would have been the alternative?
You would continue with your homeowners association, and you
Well-
would have collected your dues, and you would have done, you know, whatever maintenance you had to do.
But we can't go back retroactively in time.
Well, no,
and-
you asked me why we did, and I'm asking you, you know,
That's
why
all
did you
well and
do it?
good, but the simple fact remains that you have one body of water
Mhm.
that the town willingly took care of, no problem, and it only benefited perhaps 10 properties.
No, people use it. People drive in, people use it. It's,
They fish in Emmeline Pond, I know that, yeah.
Emmeline Pond, yeah, it's, people go
Okay,
there.
well, they could do that too in Hillside Lake at their
No,
own
we can't,
risk.
it's a special park district.
There's
you
no
have to be a
is
property
there a
owner.
prohibition for fishing in the lake or
In
water
your lake?
skiing or anything?
In your lake?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen forms that says, I've seen some of the old park district bylaws that said that you had to be a resident or a guest of a resident to use the lake.
is that the case now?
It's never been repealed, I would think.
Here's the problem. Hillside Lake is so unique
Mhm.
and has so many problems that nobody's willing to confront the whole solution. This, what we're endeavoring to do now,
Mhm.
is a good forward motion, and it's taken maybe 2 years,
2 years,
3 years,
$80,000, yeah.
politics, whatever.
Not politics,
In the
we've been trying to
meantime,
do it.
what's the end story?
Hmm?
What's the end story for Hillside Lake? Is this it? That's it? We'll put this little,
No, actually, there's a lot of focus been on Hillside Lake lately. One of the things, I mean, when I say it's a complex issue, one of the things that I see, and I would think if we get the ball rolling with the stormwater grant from the GIGP, that if we can get the grant, we can address it, we can do the project and show we did completed the project. Well, then the next phase of the project, maybe look at something that has to do with septics, because I think that there might be a possibility that septics around Hillside Lake are also contributing to the decline in the quality of the lake.
Well, I think we agree on that. That's a virtual certainty. And it has been since
It's-
1935.
It's a certainty, and it's something that is a lot more expensive than the stormwater, but you have to start.
Exactly.
You have to start walking before you can run. So if we can get the GIGP grant for the stormwater, then my thought, and I've discussed this with the engineers and with the grant writers, that would be the impetus after that to say, okay, now we've done this, we've proven we can do it, we're improving this quality of the lake, now we need, because you're looking at millions of dollars that for a sewer plant or some kind of situation over there that none of us can afford.
I agree.
You know, so that is
Especially
next
the
step.
people within the Hillside Lake Park District.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Especially the people in the
Oh,
Hillside Lake
absolutely.
Park
And when you
District.
talk these kind of numbers, you need to have government help, government to come in, not us government, because we don't have that money, but the feds come in and say, this is something we need to do. So we need to prove that we can do it by doing the stormwater first. That's why Mr. Waller said, are you gonna go after the rest of the 40% or the 60% of the discharge of the stormwater? Personally, I'd rather address a good part of the stormwater and then show that we can actually start on the next phase that maybe, hopefully, we get funding to address the septic issues out there. But that's a huge one, and this is why I say it's very complicated about everything that's impacting the lake. If you have a washing machine in Hillside Lake, I don't know where it discharges. Does it discharge to your lawn? Does it discharge to stormwater? All these loading issues, these nitrogen loading is contributing to the lake. So that is a very complex problem.
I agree.
And
it's-
I'll tell you this, and I'm learning this as I go along. Years ago, I said, we need to dredge the lake. When I first took office, the town engineer said, we need to dredge the lake. If we had, Rick, had we dredged the lake,
Like
we
Emmeline
would have
Pond.
been right back there again, because we haven't solved the problems with the lake.
The town did dredge a lake.
No, I'm talking about
And
Hillside Lake.
I'm
All right, if
talking
you're gonna
about
be back
lakes
on
in general
MD
in East Fishkill.
What's that?
I'm talking about lakes, generally speaking, in East Fishkill. There's two examples.
Okay.
One has a positive result, one has a negative result. They both had the same issue.
Which ones are they?
Excuse me?
Which ones are they? We never,
Emmeline Pond and Hillside
we
Lake.
never dredged Hillside Lake.
I know that, that's the problem.
No. I mean, I guess you didn't hear what I said. Had we dredged Hillside Lake,
We wouldn't be having this discussion.
no, we would be, because we haven't solved the problems that are contributing to it. We may have solved it for 10 years. But what I'm saying, had we dredged Hillside Lake 3 or 4 years ago, we would have had these same issues with the nitrogen loading and all the impacts to the lake. So I believe they have to be fixed first before you can actually remedy the lake problem.
So are you saying that there is a possibility that the lake would ultimately someday be dredged?
I would like to see that as soon as we can address these other issues.
And who would pay for that?
Well, what I'd like to see, number one, here we come back to a special park district. I can't swim in Hillside Lake if it's made beautiful and fine. But what I would like to say is that I think you're gonna see in a lot of the process of the work we're gonna be doing, there will be a lot of dredging done as part of those different things. So possibly in the end, what I would see is not nearly as big a dredging job as we would have envisioned had we just said do the lake 3 or 4 years ago.
Have you taken a ride to Hillside Lake lately in the
I was
summertime?
out there a couple weeks ago.
It's almost to the point where the water is completely clogged. You could literally,
Mhm.
as I indicated, you could possibly walk across it right now.
Yep.
The depth of the lake is mere inches,
Mhm.
inches. What we're doing with this stormwater runoff is an admirable endeavor.
Mhm.
It's a drop in the bucket when, in reality.
Okay.
And we should be dealing with the overall problem instead of doing it piecemeal and prioritizing which has the most bang for the buck.
Mhm.
Now, I grant you the dredging component of this solution is difficult. But the simple fact remains is that there's another alternative. Block off the lake, drain the lake, and turn it into dry land and be done with it. Why don't you just do that? It's your lake. It's the town lake.
No, I think you have
And
to.
as Mrs. Walker
We-
mentioned,
Hmm?
it would be to our benefit. The only benefit that I can think of is simply draining the lake and forgetting about it.
Okay.
When I asked her specifically what benefit to
No,
Hillside Lake,
it's, you know,
excuse me, let me finish.
If the people in the special park district of Hillside Lake would like the lake filled in, you want to just, number one.
It's your lake.
No,
We
it's your
operated
lake.
on behalf of the people in the special park district. You guys, we own it on your behalf.
Same as Loma Civic Center.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Loma Civic Center, we run that too. They came in, the residents come in and petition, because not everybody in the district or your home community is paying their dues to maintain everything. So they come back and ask the town, we need $50 a year, $100 a year, whatever it is, to maintain this, can you please collect it?
Yep.
So you petition, those people out there petitioned the town of East Fishkill 20 years ago and said, 3 guys down on that street aren't paying. Can you please put it on your tax bill? They have to pay their taxes. You run it for us. There used to be a community center out there.
There still is.
There used to be, no, they knocked one
Oh,
down.
are we talking about Hillside Lake?
The clubhouse.
The clubhouse is going
There
Hillside
used to be a
Lake.
clubhouse out there. They used to do rentals. They used to do parties. They used to do everything out at Hillside Lake. Loma couldn't get everybody to pay theirs, but theirs was even more confusing because half of it's actually
Fishkill.
Fishkill. So they were having a hard time collecting, and then we were having a hard time collecting our money from Fishkill after we paid for the whole thing.
We still are. But they petitioned us because of the same issues the HOA had in Hillside Lake years and years ago. So we took over Loma a few years ago, and we collect the taxes, and they've been improving the building and keeping up the maintenance and stuff.
What
which is
about their
we
lake?
do.
They don't have a lake. They
Then
don't have
how
a lake.
does that relate to our situation?
Because it's a
It's
special
a
park
special
district.
district,
Well,
special
But that-
park district. That's
that-
what you are.
The park district is created to solve a problem that had nothing to do with the body of water, in the case of Loma. In the case of Emmeline Pond, there was no park district.
There is no park district.
There is no park
Who
district.
instigated the effort to dredge the lake in the first place?
Which one, Emmerdine? Which lake?
Emmerdine was a town-wide owned facility.
I'm sorry, I don't understand which lake you're
before,
talking
And
about.
when Wildflower came in,
Yeah.
they contributed the money to dredge it and make it
I
an
don't-
active recreational area.
I don't agree with that. I mean, based on what I've seen in the Dutchess County land records, that, I mean, there was people's property that went to the center of the lake.
Mhm.
I don't see anything that said it's the town-owned lake, Emmeline Pond.
It's not.
And yet, the town paid to have it dredged.
The developer paid to have the dredging. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't involved with it, so I don't know. I mean, I think in the end, they had to bring in some contractor to do. I'm not familiar with Emmeline that well.
All I know is that the town got $100,000 from those developers for a recreational fund
Okay.
that went to a lake that is a mile away from the development.
Okay.
And no problem. The town
But
dredged it.
oftentimes, all the developments that come in, the Toll Brothers development, in that case, they paid $4,000 a unit, about $1 million some odd dollars, comes into a trust fund for recreational issues.
That's great.
That money is used for townwide recreational facilities, the Hopewell Park. It's not directly connected to the development. So with the Wildflower thing, I'm
Okay,
going by
and-
memory for a few years, but
Okay.
they were assessed the recreational fee.
Okay, now-
And they used money to,
Using that as an argument, is the Toll Brothers situation going back to 1935, or is it?
no, it isn't,
in
and I
two-
think
in
that's
the
a very,
2000s,
but that's a very good point, the 1935. All the drainage systems in Hillside Lake were put in over the years as the
Understood.
houses were
Yeah.
built.
Understood.
And they are part of the town highway system, as drainage systems are throughout the
Wow.
town. So I think what everyone's alluding to here is that obviously there's a substantial part of the cost of the water flowing on the highways down into the lake that are a townwide highway fund because everybody shares the cost. But there will be, as if we're lucky enough to be given a grant and we get into the details, as the supervisor has tried to indicate, there will be meetings to determine whether or not a stormwater district has to be formed. Now, those districts are formed when there is water that's collected from private properties, discharged into a public area, and there has to be some sort of an allocation of cost. Will that be the case in Hillside Lake? I think everyone is telling you we don't know that until the water basin's outlined, where the water's going to be from, who's going to, et cetera. Could it be streets outside of Hillside Lake? It may very well include them.
That doesn't
Okay?
seem
No doubt,
realistic.
but all of these things, we're trying to retrofit 2013 standards back from 1935 current. And nobody in this room, including yourself, I don't believe we're here, as that was all developed and brought into where we are today. And with the grants, if you get one grant, it usually gives you better standing to get successive grants.
So, following that line of logic, it would take maybe 10 years,
Oh, easily.
15 years,
10
20
Oh,
years
This is a huge
to
project.
fix the lake?
though. This is a huge project. I mean, when you look at the amount of material that would have to be dredged out, no matter how you do it, Rick, this is a huge project.
It's a waste of time.
Okay.
It is. And I still would love to hear the benefits that Hillside Lake residents derive from being a park district, so the rest of the town doesn't have to be, you know, bothered. I don't get that. I apologize and thank you for your time.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak on any general town issues?
Something that piqued my interest that was said and just brought the question into my head, what would it take to dissolve the park district?
I think it would take us
Enacted
active
a state legislature. The way that it works to dissolve a park district is that based upon a petition from the community, the town board could then petition the state legislature
Okay.
to dissolve it, and part of that plan has to be what happens with the assets of the park district. So whatever it was
Well,
gonna
they would
be
go
with
to the
lake.
town.
It could be that it would go to the general recreational area. It could be that, as somebody indicated, the lake would be taken out and just diverted into a stream or whatever. So all of that would be part of the proposal submitted to the state legislature.
Are you willing to prepare a petition to go around?
I'm not going to discuss that at this point because I haven't seen the law and I don't know what's required for this. You
Okay,
just
if-
asked what it takes to dissolve it, the attorney's told you, but
If-
I have no idea what legislative actions needs to
If
be
enough
taken.
people requested that,
If you would give me a petition from the Hillside Lake residents, I think I could speak for the board saying that this is Hillside Lake Park District, and we would certainly follow their wishes.
so you want us to petition you? to
I'm not
write a
asking you to do anything.
No, I'm saying you're
I'm not
suggesting
asking you to do anything, sir. You asked
I'm
how
trying to
you
clarify.
You asked how to
the state
dissolve the district.
legislator would need
If you'd like
a
to petition,
petition. We're not petition writers.
it's your call.
So, you're trying to clarify what you're saying is that we should write a petition to you requesting that perhaps Tom would write a petition to the state legislature on our behalf.
No, I'm not saying that. You said, could it be dissolved? The attorney described how it could be dissolved. You asked me if I would do it, and I said I would have to look at the law. I'm not going to commit to anything tonight without knowing the full extent of what it would take.
As custodians of the lake, I believe you would be required to submit the petition to the state legislature.
I haven't seen the law. You may be clearly correct. I haven't seen it, so I'd have to take a look.
I would have to look at it also, because the creation of the district was based on the fact of a petition filed for its creation, and I would think it would be vice versa on its reversal. But I would have to look at the law
So
also.
we'll see.
And
There we
I
go.
would like to, and to know the percentages of the people who want to do it in the lake.
Yeah, there'd
just
have to
like-
be, there'd be, have to be a certain percentage, I
Correct.
imagine, so we'll have to take a look at the law. Okay, I mean, we are trying, we're looking to get the GIGP grant, obviously, there's a lot of thought that that won't happen. We're actually asking for money from a Superstorm Sandy to do some work. We have 2 or 3 irons in the fire, hopefully, that we'll be discussing in a future meeting, so we'll see what happens. Understand the feeling. All right, is there anybody else like to speak on general town issues?
Robert from Hillside Lake.
Okay.
I don't know if this is a fair question at this point, but, so I think this project makes sense, as you say, sort of as a first step. You know, you stop the accumulation of materials in the lake, and then you go to the next step, you dredge it, so, and then the benefit of this project doesn't fill back up again, right?
Right.
That's sort of the concept. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Right.
I'm just curious, I don't know if this is a fair question, but, so you just indicated, you know, that this is the first step, and it might be like 10 years before.
Oh, I mean, I guess it's a really complex issue. I mean, when I looked at the dredging plan to just dredge the lake, drain the lake, have the silt dewater, I mean, that in itself was like a 2-year process. And that's without doing any of the stormwater or any of the septic issues being addressed. So even just dredging the lake straight out is a big project.
So I mean, have serious consideration be given to the, as someone just indicated or mentioned, why not just fill the thing in, plant some trees and,
I mean, I know.
I mean, I don't mean to be
No, we've-
pessimistic, but as far as I can tell, people have been discussing dredging and fixing this lake for the last 15 or 20 years. Now, that's probably not too much of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And so there's a certain amount of skepticism on my part that when people say, well, okay, in 10 years, we might have it done. I mean,
If the residents wanted to fill it in, I mean, I know that, I'm sure the people right on the lake would like to see it fixed, but if there's really a desire upon the people, but understand it's probably gonna be, the permits will be needed from the DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, to do any filling and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's not an easy task in itself. But it's possible, if that's what you'd like to see.
yeah, I don't know, it just seems, like I said, and, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I'd like to see a nice lake there that people could boat and swim, but I'm somewhat skeptical that even with
Okay.
best intentions, that's ever going to happen. And I don't know, maybe just filling it in is a better option. I mean, because I drive past that thing every day. The thing is an eyesore. It's, it can't be doing property values any good.
No,
Why
correct.
are we
Yeah.
going to move back there with this big pond? Like I said, maybe if you fill it in, plant some nice trees and,
And call it a park.
yeah,
Yeah, we've looked at that. We've looked at making instead of a 26-acre lake, making a 10-acre lake and having park around it, but, we've looked at different options.
is filling it in a viable idea at all, or is that, we just can't keep flip-flopping all over the place, but
I mean, I think everything's an option if everybody decides they want to do it. Absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on any general town issues? Okay, there being none, do I have any announcements?
Can I ask the comptroller, with general accounting practices or standards, if there had to be a payment from the general fund to the park district or a stormwater district to pay for general maintenance, how do you do that with?
Well, I think if you.
How does it depend, how does it look if there's an audit or something?
No, excuse me, Nick, if I may say, excuse me if I may, Mark. I think if you're talking about the issue we were just talking about, whether it's to be a general town, I mean, basically, I think you're looking at, is it a function of the highway department and the stormwater, which would be, so anybody, in any street where we have, town roads, it's paid for by the highway district. All the maintenance, all the stormwater and all that. So that's my only thought, is that if this turns out, if we take a look at this, say, you know what, this is a general highway, it would just come under highway as general maintenance. It would show maintenance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, the highway fund is a townwide fund. If the expense is a highway fund, then it would be paid for out of,
And it would show an account.
would there
would
be a
say-
clear trail? What we can't do is have the general fund or the highway fund pay for something that's not a townwide expense. So that's where the delineation
Yeah.
has to occur. And so the engineers determine what is townwide and
Yep.
what is specific to the park district, and we charge accordingly.
Okay. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay. I'm Ronnie Sheffis. I'm a homeowner at Hillside Lake. I understand that the town highway system has been in place since the 30s, when it was just campgrounds. I understand that the town accepted the roadways. The two parcels of land that were once connected, that my house is adjoining now, was once used as a place for the water to run into. It was not able to be built upon because it was too small a lot for the times. Apparently, there wasn't an impact study done on letting the land be subdivided. The Cronizer Building Company built on the lots that were too small to be built on. They got a waiver. They put in 24 truckloads on logs to suspend the houses high enough to be away from the water, which pushed the water onto our backyard. The town highway system, of the roads, run the water behind the house that is next to us onto our property. It runs down between the McNamara's and myself's yard. It runs in our front yard. It fills up our backyard. It runs over to our neighbor's yard. And there is an empty conduit that no water is really in, that is between our neighbor's yard. And so the water dissipates. There is no reason why it can't be put onto the POA property with grass that will absorb the water really quickly, so it's not on private land.
With what will absorb the water?
If you put plants, the
Okay,
green people
okay.
were saying plants.
All right, I mean, our people have been out to your property a couple times, correct?
Right, but it
And they
really,
walked the
I mean,
prop-
I had Lisa's dog swimming in my front yard.
I'm sorry, you had what?
I had our neighbor's dog
Mhm.
swimming in my front yard.
Okay.
I had deer bathing in my backyard.
Okay,
It was a very big storm, but when there's even little storms, the water's there. It's
Okay.
private property. It's a lot of people's private property. And it's being used by the highway department to disperse water that runs from the road with nowhere to go. And there isn't even apparently a good map, underground map, of where all the old catch basins are.
I'm sure there isn't. It's a
So-
very old subdivision. A lot of catch basins were put in by hand, blocked. They weren't being precast back then, so.
Well, it still needs an issue that needs to be dealt with, because our property has been used
Mhm.
by the highway system that accepted this
Okay.
redistribution of the land where the water was
And they didn't
once.
have any, I mean, I've sent people out, I think on 2 occasions, and they haven't had any ideas what we could do here. I thought they discussed with you any options, no? You did meet with our people from our engineering department,
Yes,
correct?
and they said they'd get back to me, and I haven't
Okay.
gotten back to me.
Okay, I will take care of that. They will get back to you.
I mean, it just seems like it's not, it's the town's roads,
Mhm.
the water's on our property and other
Okay.
people's property.
What road is she on?
All right, and I'm sorry, your street address again?
Oh, it's 890 North Hillside Lake Road.
890, okay.
And I have a video of all the water if you need it, but
Okay.
I'm sure you know it's there. the
No, I've
water.
had you, we've had these discussions, I've discussed it with the engineering department 2 or 3 times now, so we'll follow up and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else like to speak on any general town issues? Okay, there being none, do we have any other announcements? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. The meeting is now closed.